The day I realized I had been replaced, it was raining. Not a heavy storm, just a quiet, steady rain. The kind that makes the streets shine and turns car lights into long, blurry lines. I remember standing by the window, watching the drops slide down the glass, and feeling like every single one was a thought I did not want to have. She said she needed me, I kept thinking. She said I was her home. But homes, I learned that day, can be left. They can be outgrown. They can be replaced. I was holding my phone in my hand. The message was still open. Her words were not meant for me. They were meant for him. The younger man with the easy smile and the kind of energy I used to have years ago. It was a simple line, really. I do not know why it hurt so much. You make me feel alive again. Again, that word did something to me. It told me that somewhere along the way, with time and work and bills and tired evenings, I had stopped making her feel that way. I had not even noticed when it happened. Behind me, the house was quiet. No TV, no music. Just the humming of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock in the hallway. The couch we had chosen together. The framed photos on the wall. Our life neatly arranged, like it still belonged to both of us. But in that moment, it did not feel like mine anymore. I could hear her voice in my head. The many times she had said, "I need you." When her father passed away. When our son had a fever and we stayed up all night. When she lost her job and we had to cut back on everything. When she was scared of the future and I held her hand in the dark and promised, "I'm not going anywhere." I meant it. I always meant it. What I never asked was, "Will you stay too?" I assumed she would. I assumed love was a promise that did not change. But people get tired. People get lonely even while sitting next to someone they have loved for years. And that day, with the rain outside and her messages on my screen, I realized something simple and very painful. She did not leave because she hated me. She left because someone else made her feel something I had not made her feel in a long time. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and tried to calm my shaking hands. There was no shouting, no broken plates, no dramatic scenes like in the movies. Just a quiet man in a quiet house, finally seeing the truth that had been there for months. I had been replaced. And somehow, I knew this story started long before that message. I met her when we were young enough to believe that love alone could solve everything. I was in my late 20s. She was a few years younger, with a bright laugh and this way of talking with her hands that made everything she said feel more alive. We met at a small cafe after work. I went there for coffee and a sandwich. She was there with a stack of paperwork and a look of pure frustration. She dropped one of her folders, and papers went everywhere. I bent down to help her. Our hands bumped. She laughed and apologized. I said something simple like, "Looks like a long day." She sighed and said, "You have no idea." That is how it started. One small moment, one shared smile. I liked her right away. Not because she was the most beautiful woman in the world, though she was very pretty. I liked her because she seemed awake. Like the light in the room had turned up a little when she spoke. She had dreams and stories and opinions about everything. I was quieter, more careful with my words, but she liked that about me, at least at first. "You're steady," she told me once. We were walking home after a date, the streetlights making a soft glow on the pavement. "I feel safe with you." I did not know that steady can one day be called boring. Back then, it sounded like the greatest compliment. We did not rush. We dated for a while. We got to know each other's families. My mother loved her. Her mother thought I was too serious, but she came around when she saw how I treated her daughter. After 2 years, we moved into a small apartment. After 4 years, we got married. The wedding was simple but beautiful, a small hall, some flowers, her in a white dress that made her look like something I did not deserve, me in a suit that felt too stiff, trying very hard not to cry when she walked down the aisle. I remember the vows most of all. She said, "I choose you, today and every day." I said, "I will stand by you no matter what." People clapped, we kissed, and for a long time it felt like we meant every word. Our early years together were busy but happy. We both worked. We cooked together some nights, eating late while we talked about our days. Other nights, we were too tired, and we just sat on the couch, her feet in my lap, a silly TV show on, our hands touching. We did not have much, but we had enough. Enough money to pay the rent. Enough patience to laugh off little fights. Enough hope to dream about a small house with a garden one day. Eventually, we had our son. I still remember holding him in the hospital, feeling terrified and proud at the same time. She watched me with tearful eyes and whispered, "I need you to be strong for us." I promised her I would. From that moment, I worked even harder. Longer hours, extra shifts. I told myself I was doing it all for them, for our future, for that house with the small garden and maybe a second child. I wanted her to be proud of me, to feel safe, to never worry about bills. But there is something I did not understand back then. Sometimes, when you work too hard to provide, you stop being present. I was often tired when I came home. She would want to talk, and I would say, "Can we talk later? I just need a moment." She would look a little disappointed, but she would nod and say, "Okay, we'll talk tomorrow." Tomorrow became this weekend. This weekend became maybe next week. Our son grew. He started school. He made friends. She went back to work part-time. Our life moved forward slowly like a river. It felt normal, but normal can hide a lot of small cracks. Looking back, the first signs were very quiet, little things. Moments I brushed aside. She started going to the gym. It was her idea. "I feel heavy and tired all the time," she said one morning in the kitchen. The sun was shining through the window onto the table where we sat with our coffee. "I want to feel good in my body again." I told her, "You look fine to me." She smiled, but there was a sadness in her eyes. "I want to feel fine to me." So she joined a gym near her office. At first, it was just twice a week, then 3 times, then 4. I did not mind. I was proud of her for taking care of herself. I thought it was a good thing. She came home tired but happy. Her cheeks were a little red. She moved with more energy. She bought new workout clothes. She talked about new routines, new exercises, new music she listened to while running on the treadmill. One evening she mentioned a name. "Daniel pushed me to do 1 more set today," she said, pulling a pan from the cupboard. I thought I was going to collapse. I was cutting vegetables at the counter. "Who's Daniel?" I asked. "Oh, just one of the trainers," she replied. "He's helping me with a program. He says I'm stronger than I think." She said it casually. I did not feel any alarm. I chuckled and said, "Well, he's right. You've always been stronger than you think." She smiled at that. "You say that," she said softly, "but he makes me believe it." I should have heard that line more clearly, but I was tired from work, and there was dinner to finish and homework to help our son with, and a long day ahead tomorrow, so I did not think much about Daniel. Weeks turned into months. Her body changed. She lost weight. She walked lighter. She bought new jeans that fit her in a way that made her feel confident. I noticed other people noticing her when we went out. I saw men look at her in the supermarket. I saw how she shrugged it off with a little smile. She looked more alive than she had in years. I was happy for her, but I also felt something else that I could not name at the time, a quiet distance. It was as if she was walking a few steps ahead of me, on a path I had not noticed before. At home, she spent more time on her phone. Nothing unusual at first, we all do that, but sometimes she would turn the screen slightly away when I walked by, or she would smile at a message and tuck the phone under her pillow when I entered the bedroom. Once, very gently, I asked, "Who are you talking to?" She hesitated for a moment. Then she said, "Just some people from the gym. We have a group chat. They share tips and stuff." I nodded. "That's nice," I said. But something in me tightened. Our conversations changed too. They became shorter, more practical. "Did you pay the bill? Can you pick up our son from school on Wednesday? We're going to my mother's on Sunday, right?" We still laughed sometimes. We still watched shows. We still had dinner together. From the outside, we probably looked fine. But there were gaps now. Pauses. Things left unsaid. One night, we were lying in bed, the lights off, the ceiling a dark blur above us. I could hear the faint city sounds through the window. She was on her side, facing away from me. I reached out and placed my hand lightly on her shoulder. "Are you happy?" I asked. She went very still. For a moment I thought she had not heard me. Then she said, "Why do you ask?" "I don't know," I replied. "You just seem far away sometimes." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I'm just tired. It will get better." I wanted to believe her. I pulled my hand back, not wanting to push. I did not want to fight. I told myself we were just going through a phase, that all couples do, that we would find each other again. The next day, life went on. Work, school, meals, chores, but the distance stayed. Scene cue, soft music, slow pan across a quiet kitchen, unwashed coffee cups in the sink, a chair slightly pulled back, an empty spot at the table. The first time I saw him, I did not know who he was. I had gone to pick her up from the gym. Our car was in the shop and it was raining hard that evening. She called me and asked if I could come get her. I said yes, of course. When I arrived, I parked and waited for a few minutes, watching the glass doors. People came and went with bags and headphones and towels around their shoulders. And then I saw her. She stepped out with a man beside her. He was tall, maybe early 30s, with that smooth, effortless energy of someone who spends a lot of time taking care of his body. He was holding an umbrella over both of them, leaning slightly closer so she would not get wet. She laughed at something he said. It was that same bright laugh from years ago, the one that made me fall in love with her in a cafe. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. They walked toward the parking lot. I could see the way she tilted her face up to look at him, the way his eyes stayed on her just a second longer than they needed to. My heart started beating faster. Not anger, not yet. Just confusion. A strange, slow awareness that something was shifting in a way I did not understand. She saw our car and waved. The man smiled and said something I could not hear. She nodded. He walked away in the other direction. She opened the passenger door and slid in, her hair slightly damp, cheeks pink from the cooler air. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey," she replied, catching her breath. "Thank you for coming." "It's pouring." I glanced toward the gym doors. "Who was that?" "Who?" she asked, wiping a raindrop from her forehead. "The guy with the umbrella." "Oh," she said, "that's Daniel, remember? The trainer I told you about." Something dropped in my chest. "Right," I said. "Daniel." She buckled her seatbelt and started talking about her workout, about how hard it was, about how she almost gave up but he pushed her through. I listened, nodding at the right places, but my mind kept flashing back to that moment under the umbrella. The closeness. The way they moved together. Like this was not the first time they had walked side by side in the rain. On the drive home, I sneaked small glances at her. She was texting someone, smiling faintly. Her fingers moved quickly. When she noticed me looking, she placed the phone face down on her lap. "I'm just telling them I got home safe," she said. I did not ask who them was. I was afraid of the answer. Scene Q, car interior at night, rain streaking down the windshield, soft wiper sounds, dashboard glow on the narrator's tired face. It did not happen all at once. I think people imagine affairs as sudden. One clear moment when everything changes. But in real life, it is slow. It is small choices, small secrets, small lies that add up until one day the truth is too big to hide. She started spending more evenings out. "Group training," she would say, grabbing her bag. "We're doing a late session. I won't be too long." Sometimes she came back smiling and chatty. Sometimes she came back quiet, staring out of the window on the way home, as if some part of her was still somewhere else. Our son noticed first, in his own way. "Mom is always at the gym now," he said once, as we sat on the couch together, a cartoon playing in the background. "She's working on her health," I told him. "That's good, right?" He shrugged and leaned into me. "I like it when she's home." "Me too," I said, and kissed the top of his head. One night she came home later than usual. The clock on the wall showed almost 11. I was at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, an open laptop in front of me, pretending to work but mostly just waiting. I heard the key turn in the lock. The door opened. She came in, a little flustered, hair slightly messy. She froze when she saw me sitting there. "Oh," she said, "you're still up." I smiled, though my chest felt tight. "Couldn't sleep. Long session?" She dropped her bag by the door. "We went for a drink after, just a small bar near the gym. I told you I might be late." I tried to remember. Had she? Maybe she had and I had not heard her. Maybe she had not. My mind was too tired to be sure. "How was it?" I asked. "It was fine," she said quickly. "Just needed to relax." I nodded. "Did you have fun?" She hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Yes." Then she added, "You know, it's nice sometimes to feel light." I did not know how to answer that. I looked down at my tea. The steam had already faded. "I understand," I said finally. She moved past me, her hand brushing my shoulder in a way that felt more like habit than affection. "I'm going to shower," she said. I listened to the water running, the sound of the bathroom door closing. The house felt large and hollow, even though it was small. I told myself I was imagining things, that she just needed some space, that her new friends and this new version of herself were like a phase, and it would settle. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. It became clearer with each small change. Her perfume started to linger even when she came home late. She wore lipstick to the gym, lipstick to sweat. She checked her reflection in the mirror a little more often. She laughed at messages that came late at night. I lay awake sometimes, watching the light from her phone on the ceiling. I wanted to ask questions. I wanted to say, Who is he? Is there someone else? But I was afraid of her answer, so I stayed quiet. Silence can feel safe in the moment. There it was, days and days of messages, weeks of small words that together formed something huge, little jokes, compliments, late-night confessions. I love how you laugh at my stupid jokes. You looked amazing in that blue top today. Sometimes I forget you're married. Sometimes I do too. That last line was hers. I read it twice, 3 times. My chest felt like someone had reached inside and squeezed it tight. Further up there were photos, nothing explicit. Just her at the gym, sweaty and smiling. Him sending a picture of a coffee cup and saying, "Wish you were here to share this." Her saying, "Soon," with a small wink she never used with me anymore. Then I reached the message that broke something inside me in a quiet, final way. He had written, "You deserve someone who chooses you first, not out of habit, not out of duty, but because you make them feel alive." She had replied, "That's how you make me feel." I do not remember how long I stood there, holding the phone in my hand. The kitchen around me felt different, like a set in a play, not my home. The ticking of the clock was too loud. The hum of the fridge sounded like static in my ears. I put the phone down. I sat in a chair. I stared at the wall. I felt empty. Not angry, not yet. Not wild or broken. Just empty, like someone had quietly walked through my heart, taking things off the shelves and leaving them bare. The front door opened. I heard her keys on the hook. Her footsteps. The sound of her dropping her bag by the door. "Hey," she called out, "you're home early." I did not answer right away. I was afraid that if I tried to speak, my voice would break. She came into the kitchen and froze when she saw the phone on the table. Open. Screen glowing. Our eyes met. We did not need to say what had happened. It was all there in that one look. Her face drained of color. Her mouth opened and closed. She reached for the phone but then stopped, her hand hovering in the air. "How long?" I asked quietly. My voice did not sound like my own. She swallowed. "I can explain." "Please do," I said. She looked down at the floor. "It wasn't supposed to be anything," she said softly. "It just happened." "How long?" I repeated. She took a deep breath. "We started talking a few months ago. It was just about workouts at first. Then, more." "Did you sleep with him?" I asked. There it was. The question that broke the air between us like glass. She closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. "Yes," she whispered. The world did not explode. No lightning struck. No dramatic music started. Instead, there was only the sound of my own breathing and the rain starting again outside the window. I nodded slowly. "Do you love him?" I asked. She hesitated longer this time. That pause was another kind of answer. Finally, she said, "I don't know. I feel something with him that I haven't felt in a long time." "And with me?" I asked. "What do you feel with me?" She looked up then, meeting my eyes. Her expression was full of pain, guilt, confusion. "I feel safe with you," she said, grateful, but also tired, like I'm carrying a version of myself I don't know how to be anymore. I wanted to ask her how long she had been tired of me, when exactly I had stopped being enough, but the words got stuck in my throat. "I gave you everything I had," I said, more to myself than to her. "I know," she replied, her voice breaking. "And I am so sorry. You have been good to me, better than I deserved in many ways." "Then why?" I asked. It was a simple question. It held every ache I had. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "Because somewhere along the way I stopped feeling seen," she said. "I stopped feeling like a woman and started feeling like a duty, a habit. And then he came along and reminded me of the girl I used to be, the one who laughed too loud and dreamed too big and felt exciting." I sat there in silence. I could have shouted. I could have called her names. I could have told her she was selfish, cruel, ungrateful. Maybe a younger version of me would have done that, but instead, I just felt very old. Scene Q, close-up of hands on a kitchen table, one pair steady, one trembling, rain tapping softly against the window. We talked for a long time that day, if you could even call it talking. It was more like two people standing on opposite sides of a broken bridge, trying to figure out when it had fallen and who had missed the first crack. "I'm not proud of what I've done," she said. "I hate myself for hurting you." "You have to believe that." "Do you want to fix this?" I asked. "Do you want to try?" She looked away. That hurt more than any word. "I don't know," she whispered. "Part of me wants to go back, to pretend none of this happened, to be the wife you deserve, but another part of me has already left." She covered her face with her hands and started to cry, quietly at first, then harder. I watched her, torn between wanting to comfort her and wanting to disappear. "I needed you," I said, my voice soft. "I still do, but you said you needed me too. All these years." She dropped her hands and looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "I did," she said. "I did need you. When my father died, you held me together. When I was scared about money, you took extra shifts. When our son was born, you were there for every sleepless night. You have been my rock." "Then why wasn't that enough?" I asked. "Because I needed more than a rock," she replied, her voice shaking. "I needed someone who also saw me as alive, not just as someone to protect. I needed to feel chosen again, not just kept." I took those words in like sharp stones. We were both quiet for a long time after that. "Do you want to be with him?" I asked ultimately. She closed her eyes. "Yes," she said very, very quietly. "At least, I want to see where it goes. I don't know if it will last. Maybe I'm making a huge mistake, but I can't pretend this isn't in my heart." "Even if it tears our family apart?" I asked. She began to sob again. "I don't know how to do this right," she said. "Every choice feels wrong. Staying and pretending, or leaving and breaking you, breaking our son." "You already broke me," I said, but there was no anger in my voice, just a heavy sadness. "Now we have to decide what to do with the pieces." We agreed to take some time. She slept in the guest room that night. I lay in our bed alone, staring at the ceiling, listening to the familiar creaks of the house that suddenly did not feel like mine. The next few days were a blur. We told our son that Mom needed some space, that things were complicated. We did not use words like affair or separation. He was still young. All he knew was that something had changed. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked me once, standing in the doorway of my room with wide eyes. I pulled him close. "No," I said firmly. "You did nothing wrong. This is between Mom and Dad. We both love you very much. That will never change." I made sure he heard those words. I wanted him to understand that love, at least the love between parent and child, could stay even when other things fell apart. After a week, we had another talk in the kitchen, the same room where the truth had first opened itself. "I've spoken to a lawyer," she said softly. It felt like being punched in the chest, but I did not show it. "So have I replied. She nodded. "He says it would be easier if we keep it calm. No fighting, no shouting. We can decide on custody together. We can sell the house later. Is that what you want?" I asked. Tears filled her eyes again. "I don't know what I want. I only know I can't live in this half-life anymore, pretending to be the woman you married when I don't recognize myself." "And this younger man?" I asked. "He recognizes you?" She flinched but did not look away. "He sees the part of me that still feels 25, she said. "I know that is not fair to you. I know it sounds selfish, maybe it is, but for the first time in years I feel alive." It was in that moment that I realized something simple and painful. I had been pouring my whole self into being steady, into being safe and reliable. I had thought that was love, and in many ways, it was. But I had stopped seeing her as a woman who needed romance, excitement, little surprises. I had treated our marriage like a job I was doing well, not a garden I had to keep tending. This did not excuse what she had done. It did not make her betrayal less sharp, but it helped me understand how we got there. "I won't fight you," I said quietly. "I won't drag this through court. Our son doesn't deserve that." She covered her mouth with her hand and sobbed. "You're a good man," she said, "better than me." "I don't feel very good right now," I replied. Scene cue, papers on a table, a pen beside them, sunlight fading through the window as shadows lengthen. The day she left, the house looked almost the same. Her clothes were gone from the wardrobe. Some of her books were missing from the shelf. A few photo frames had been taken down. But if you walked in without knowing, you might not have noticed at first. Our son went to stay with her for a few days, then with me. We tried to keep it balanced, fair. We sat together and explained to him that Mommy and Daddy were not living in the same house anymore, but that we would both always be his parents. He cried, of course. I held his small body while he shook, and she sat on the other side, tears running down her face too. It was one of the hardest moments of my life. "Why can't you just say sorry and be friends again?" he asked between sobs. I wished more than anything that it was that simple. We told him in gentle words that sometimes grown-ups change inside, and they have to make hard choices, that it was not his fault, that he was loved more than anything. He did not understand. How could he? But children have a way of adapting, even when their hearts hurt. After they left that day, the silence in the house felt heavier than ever. I walked from room to room, touching little things. The dent in the couch where she used to sit, the coffee mug with a small crack she refused to throw away, the mark on the wall from when our son had hit it with a toy car. It all felt like a museum of a life that was no longer mine. I moved to a smaller apartment a few weeks later. It was practical. This house was too big for just me. We sold it, split the money. The new place was plain but clean, white walls, a small kitchen. He plays soccer with me. I smiled. It hurt, but I smiled. "That's nice," I said. "Did you have fun?" He nodded, his mouth full of cheese. "Yeah." After he went to bed that night, I stood in the hallway for a long time, listening to his soft breathing through the door. I felt jealousy, yes, but more than that, I felt fear. Fear of being replaced in his heart, too. I had lost my place in her life. I could not bear the thought of losing my place in his. So I made myself a quiet promise. No matter how broken I felt, I would not let my pain turn into poison for him. I would not speak badly about his mother. "He's a great kid." "I know," I said. My ex-wife watched us, eyes shining with unshed tears. Our son bounced next to me, unaware of the heavy air between the adults. "Can I come to your place this weekend too?" he asked. "We're going to the park with Mom and Daniel, but maybe after?" "Of course," I said quickly. "You're always welcome." We talked for a minute about logistics, times, days, school. It was practical, polite, painful. At the end, as they were about to move on, she looked at me and whispered, "I'm sorry." I held her gaze. "I know," I said. "I'm starting to believe you." We left it at that. That evening when I got home, I sat in the dark for a while. Not crying, not angry, just letting the reality sink in. She had built a new life and he was part of it. I could not change that, but I still had mine. It was smaller, quieter, a little emptier, but it was mine. Scene cue, slow fade from supermarket encounter to the narrator sitting by a window at night, city lights outside, his reflection faint on the glass. Little by little, I started to reclaim myself, not in big, dramatic ways. I did not suddenly join a gym or buy a sports car or try to become someone I was not. That was never me. Instead, I did small things. I started cooking new recipes instead of just reheating frozen meals. I discovered I enjoyed it, chopping vegetables, stirring sauces, tasting and adjusting. It felt grounding. I went for walks after dinner, just around the block at first, then longer. The air felt good in my lungs. The sky, changing colors at sunset, reminded me that the world was still moving, even if my life had paused for a while. I picked up old hobbies I had once loved and abandoned, reading, woodworking. I made a small shelf for my son's room in the new apartment to hold his books and toys. When he saw it, his eyes lit up. "You made this?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "with my own hands." "That's cool," he said, running his fingers along the smooth wood. "You're good at making things, Dad." His words warmed something inside me. I also started talking to someone, a therapist. At first, I did not want to go. I told myself I could handle it, that I just needed time. But one night, after my son had gone back to his mother's and the apartment felt unbearably empty, I realized I was stuck in my own head. I needed help to climb out. The therapist's office was small and quiet. A soft chair, a box of tissues on the table, a plant in the corner. She listened more than she spoke. She did not judge. She did not tell me I was wrong for still loving a woman who had betrayed me or for feeling replaced. "Losing your place in someone's life is a kind of grief," she said once. "You're not just mourning the relationship. You're mourning the version of yourself that existed in it." That made sense to me. I talked about the early days, about the vows, about the way she would look at me like I was her whole world, about how that look faded slowly, so slowly I did not notice it until it was gone. I also talked about my own failures, my busyness, my silence, my habit of saying we'll talk later and never actually talking, my belief that working hard and paying bills and showing up physically was enough to keep love alive. Facing those truths was not easy, but it was necessary. "Does understanding your part in this make what she did okay?" the therapist asked. "No," I said. "Then why is it important?" she asked. I thought about that. "Because," I said finally, "if I can see where I went wrong, I can grow. I can become a better man, not to win her back, but so I don't repeat the same mistakes with anyone." She smiled gently. "That's a good answer." Over time, the sharp pain softened. I still felt sadness. Of course I did. I still had days when I woke up and instinctively reached for the other side of the bed, only to find it empty. I still had moments when I wondered what they were doing, if she was happy, if he understood the weight of the promises she had once made to me. But I also had new moments, laughing with my son over a silly joke, sharing coffee with a colleague at work and actually listening instead of rushing, sitting on the sofa on a Sunday morning, sunlight streaming in, a book in my hands, and realizing I felt peaceful. Not all the time, but sometimes, and sometimes is a start. Scene cue, series of soft images, narrator cooking, walking in a park, working on a wooden shelf, sitting in a therapist's office with warm light. One evening, a few years later, I received a message from her. It was simple. "Can we talk?" We had, of course, spoken many times since the separation, about our son, about school events, about holidays and schedules and practical things. It had become easier over time, polite and almost friendly, but this message felt different. I replied, "About what?" She wrote back, "About us, about the past, only if you want to." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to leave the past where it was. Another part of me, the part that had spent so many nights wondering why and how and what if, wanted to hear what she had to say. "Okay," I wrote back. "When?" "Tomorrow evening," she replied. "I can come by when he's with your mother." I agreed. The next day I cleaned the apartment more than it needed. I wiped the counters twice. I straightened the cushions on the couch. I put on a clean shirt. It felt strange, caring about how the place looked for her. After everything, she arrived right on time. When I opened the door, I almost did not recognize her for a second. She looked older. Not in a bad way, just more grown. There were faint lines around her eyes, a tiredness in her shoulders. She was still beautiful, but the light around her had changed. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi," I replied. We sat at the small table. I poured us tea. The silence between us felt heavy but not hostile. "How have you been?" she asked. "Fine," I said. "Busy, you?" She shrugged. It was a small, simple act, but it felt like a bridge being rebuilt. Not the old one, but a new one. Different, smaller, but enough for two people to stand on and speak without falling. "How are you and him?" I asked. She wiped her eyes. "It was intense at first," she said honestly. "Then real life came, bills, work, responsibilities. We've had our problems. Nothing feels like a movie forever." "Do you love him?" I asked. Again, years after I had first asked that question in our kitchen. She thought for a moment. "Yes," she said, "but it's different from how I thought it would be. I thought leaving would fix everything inside me. It didn't. It just changed the scenery. I still had to face myself." We talked for a while longer. About the past, about the mistakes we both made. She acknowledged my efforts, the ways I had shown love that she had once overlooked. I acknowledged my emotional distance, my assumption that quiet loyalty was enough for a woman who needed words and warmth and surprise. When she left that night, we hugged at the door. It was not a romantic hug. It was the kind of hug you give someone who once knew your whole heart, and now knows only part of it. There was sadness in it, and gratitude, and something like peace. Scene cue, doorway at dusk, two figures hugging briefly, then parting, one walking down the hallway, the other closing the door slowly. Life did not become perfect after that conversation. There were still hard days. Co-parenting is not always simple. Old wounds sometimes ache in new situations. There are moments when I see a flash of the girl I married in her face and feel a sharp tug of nostalgia. But something inside me is softer now. I no longer walk around with my hands clenched, ready to hold on to the past. I let it be what it is, a part of my story, not the end of it. Sometimes, late at night, when my son is asleep in the next room and the apartment is quiet, I sit by the window and think about the words that once broke my heart. "You make me feel alive again." She had said that to him. Back then, those words felt like a blade. Now I hear them differently. We all want to feel alive. We all want to feel seen, chosen, cared for. Sometimes people make selfish choices in that search. Sometimes they hurt others deeply. Sometimes they hurt themselves. I do not excuse what she did, but I understand that she was chasing something she felt she had lost. It doesn't mean I was worthless. It doesn't mean I was not enough as a man. It means we were both human, both flawed, both growing in different directions. I also understand something else now. I cannot let my worth depend on whether someone chooses me or replaces me. If a person can replace you that easily, they never truly saw all of you in the first place. Or maybe you never showed them all of you. Either way, your value does not decrease because someone else cannot see it. These days, I try to live more fully. I listen more when people talk. I make time for small joys, not just responsibilities. I tell my son often that he matters, that his feelings matter, that his future self will thank him for being honest and kind. Sometimes he asks me questions about love. "Dad," he said once, sitting on the floor with his homework spread out around him, "how do you know if someone is the one?" I smiled at him, feeling both proud and a little sad. "You don't," I said gently. "Not the way movies say you do. You know if someone is willing to grow with you, to talk when it's hard, to stay even when you both feel distant, and you know if you can do the same for them." "Did you and Mom have that?" he asked. "For a while," I replied honestly. "Then we lost it. We stopped growing together. We stopped talking when it was hard. That's why it ended." He nodded slowly. "Will it happen to me too?" "Maybe," I said. "Maybe not. Heartbreak happens to most people at some point. But if you stay kind and honest, if you learn from it, you'll be okay. You're stronger than you think." He smiled. "You always say that." "I mean it," I replied. "And I do." Scene Q, warm living room, father and son sitting on the floor, homework books open, a soft lamp lighting the scene. If there is a lesson in my story, it is not a grand one. I cannot tell you that everything works out perfectly in the end. I did not win her back. I did not get a dramatic apology in front of a crowd. I did not suddenly meet a new love who fixed everything inside me. Life is not a movie. But here is what did happen. I learned that you can survive being replaced. You can sit in a quiet room, holding the broken pieces of your heart, and slowly, patiently, put yourself back together. Not the same as before, but still whole. I learned that forgiveness is not about saying, "It's okay." It's about saying, "I will not let this pain control me anymore." I learned that you can love someone and still let them go. You can accept that their path no longer runs next to yours without wishing them harm. I learned that sometimes you lose people but find yourself. Today, when I think of her, I do not just remember the woman who left me for a younger man. I also remember the girl who spilled papers in a cafe and laughed when our hands touched. The young wife who held my baby with shaking arms. The woman who cried in the dark when she thought life was too hard. She is not just one version, and neither am I. We are all many stories. If you are listening to this and you have been replaced by someone younger, someone more exciting, someone new, I want to tell you this. Your story is not over. You are not a chair someone got bored of and pushed into a corner. You are not an old shirt replaced by a newer one. You are a person with a heart that has loved and can love again. A person who has survived loss before and will survive this too. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself be sad. It is okay to cry over what was and what could have been. It is okay to sit in the quiet and feel like your world has ended. But remember, please, that there is more life ahead. There will be mornings when the light through the window feels gentle instead of harsh. There will be laughter that does not hurt. There will be days when you do not think of them at all, and you will realize with a little surprise that you are okay. Maybe one day you will share your story, like I am sharing mine now. Maybe someone out there will feel less alone because of it. If that happens, then even this pain will have given something to the world. She said she needed me until someone better came along. I understand now that I was never just something to be needed. I am someone who deserves to be chosen fully, not out of habit or duty, but out of love. So are you. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe for more stories.